to, I should say, a fake trans woman is not equal to a biological XX chromosomal female. It never has been, never will be. It is not equal to put boys in women's sports and then say records are being broken. If it was wrong for the East Germans and wrong for the Russians during the Cold War, then it should be wrong right now in the United States.
I can't agree anymore. That's really where we're at. We're basically in make-believe land. Anything I want to believe.
Not make-believe. Make a lie land.
Wow.
Make two dudes equal to a man and a woman, or two women equal to a man and a woman, or you want to have a family that will be multiple partners, including animals. And my question is if they got a divorce, would animals would they be community property, or would they be seen as equal spouses, and who pays the taxes to them? Do they get a share if there's a division of corporate property? There's some insane stuff that these people will pull out. I mean, if you already got the bathrooms where they're raping people in the bathrooms, where you can't get upset if your little baby girl goes in the bathroom, the grown man runs in behind it, right?
Right. And I can't say nothing? I will say so. I will drag that dude out of the bathroom myself.
But the point is, you drag him out of the bathroom yourself. If you hit him, it's a hate crime the way it's going.
Wow.
So how do you restrain a person that wants to rape your child without being accused or charges brought against you for discrimination or hate, the way hate is being defined? I hate if I say that a woman is able to have a baby and has an XX chromosomal order, right?
Right.
There are people being fired from jobs, punished for not going along with it.
Dang. And this is all being set up by the government.
Well, I wouldn't say it's the government, not the elected government, now the secret government. The people who really run things, the globalists and Luciferian people, yes. But the rank and file person in the government, including the bureaucracy, most folks just want to check. They want to do their job, sit under behind and air condition and nice clothes and have nice benefits. That's the most significant part of the government, the bureaucracy, the people that implement the changes, or implement the directives of their respective agency or office that they work in.
Wow.
I need to say this to you. This Equality Act has a chance of not passing. And if it shouldn't pass, the people who've been most vociferous and most powerful coming out against it have been lesbians who've understood it long last. All these women trying to be dudes. All these women choosing feminism and this madness on everybody's throat and changing gender references. You can't do this, you can't do that. The insanity of bowing to the Jezebel spirit of these crazy lesbians has now come to them to recognize who can play that game.
Right.
You and I can decide to be females and get female minority things, right?
Right. Privileges.
All of a sudden, right? And if a man and a woman are in court fighting over child custody, where it used to favor the woman, well, if I say I'm a woman too, then we're both mothers.
Wow.
I have more income than all of us. Yes. This is what the lesbian feminists have recognized, that women have it damn good with Title IX. Take all those protections away, and all of a sudden, women in America will be worse off than women in Afghanistan.
Wow.
And it will all be justified.
And do you think the atheists are having a role to play in this as well?
I don't really know what they're doing, because there are all kinds of people that would be atheistic, and they may have all kinds of roles. But what I am intrigued by is that there's not one major so-called Christian denomination or organization where its entire leadership, with the exception the Mormons that have come out and said that this is not a good deal. The Southern Baptists have done it. The National Baptist USA, the National Baptist of America, Church of God in Christ, Presbyterians, United Methodist Church. There's been an amazing amount of silence from people who say they believe in something. I haven't even heard any major Muslim or associations say anything about this.
Wow, that's unusual.
I haven't heard Buddhists. There's a bunch of little punks too. They got it too. And they got great prayer. I mean, they're all used to bending over behind me.
Stop. I have a question from the chat room for you, Doctor. This comes from Sister Hunt. She says, greetings to you. And she wants to ask you, are you in Facebook jail because she hasn't seen you post lately?
Yes, I'm in Facebook jail. I'll get out on the 6th of June.
Oh my God.
I got in trouble for making jokes about people killing black folks. What got me in trouble is each time there was a really bad case of blacks being violated in the news, like a man raping a little black girl and getting no charges, I would write "White Power Matters."
Wow.
Which really, there's no Nazism. I'm just mocking the racism in the society. They felt that violated community standards.
So, see, I've heard that before, Doctor, that if you're an outspoken black person or something and you speak on certain topics, they will put you in timeout.
Yeah, but you get put. But think about it: no nudity, no profanity, nothing. Just a wisecrack on the injustice without really saying anything other than "White Power Matters."
Oh wow! See, that's why I don't really.
No, it's okay. I know I say stuff about Mother Zucker all the time and Zucker Church, and I don't care. Ultimately, I'm hoping. I like the way that things are going with this new Attorney General, and it looks as if it's just a matter of time. Like one of the gay people that helped start Facebook, I think his last name is Owens, who came out and said that Facebook needs to be broken up. I've had a prophecy, and it may happen. I've always had a nagging feeling that Zuckerberg was going to kill himself.
Oh, man. Well, we'd only be so lucky.
I would not be surprised. Well, the world would be lucky. And maybe some of the other ones will all do a murder-suicide pact because they certainly are hurting the rest of us. This thing is meant to spy on us. But understand, I've been using Facebook since 2006 or 7.
Wow. You've been there for a while.
And I really began to use it in 2010 to raise hell. And as much as people don't like what we're saying, so say as much as we want. And that's the real problem. Facebook has become a way for black people to discuss things that other people don't want to hear, don't want to deal with. And in fact, nobody knew how much we can't stand the way things are. So understand me. If you're one of the analysts at Facebook and you're white supremacist, it must be very blistering to have to deal with the black people online.
Yes.
And anybody who had a chat room, they're always white supremacists trying to get into black groups and infiltrate. And they've never been told, we don't want you, we don't like you, get out. This isn't for you. Why don't you join a little Nazi group of your own? A lot of people are not used to any rejection based on who they are. They're used to doing the rejection.
Right.
Not being told you're not wanted. I don't like you. I don't care if you're a nice person. It doesn't matter if I'm a nice person. It doesn't get my credit redlining to stop It doesn't stop me from being racially profiled. So all the people like you that are really good folks who screw over us, okay, when you say you're a good person, that's an unconvincing case for us to want to associate with you.
Right.
So I have very few people who are not what I would consider Black or Global South friends. There's a lot of folks that want to be friends. I don't want to be friends with you on Facebook. You can call me. You can email me. We're not friends where I want you looking at what I post. If you happen to see me, that's your problem. That's you trying to do a social media colonoscopy on me. And frankly, if you're going to do that, do it on your own time, but not with my consent. In fact, a lot of folks that get blocked and messed with, they're the ones trying to be friends to everybody. The same folks that won't talk to them. Why would you want them on your social media?
You wouldn't.
So block everybody that you don't like. If you even think about it, if you block.
And that can save your marriage.
There are lots of ways to communicate with me. Email, Twitter, LinkedIn. Certain folks, what they really want to do, like when you had these early so-called black churches, the white folks would come in and monitor what the black people talked about and report back. This is when a lot of white folks, like concentration camp guards or prison guards or plantation slave drivers, trying to monitor what you say and do. And what are they going to do if most of their associates in their social realm is white? All they're doing is going back, reporting everything that you as an individual say back to other folks who more than likely have a good number of Klansmen, Nazis, and garden variety haters.
Right.
You shouldn't even be talking to people. I don't want to talk to you. We have nothing to talk about.
I have another message from the chat room. Sister Hunt wants to know where can she send a donation to you at?
Real easy. wrandyshort@gmail is my PayPal, and I have a Cash App. Let me see. What is my Cash App? I've never gotten anything on Cash App before. That would be a blessing.
Well, that's what the show's about.
Okay, well, hold on. Where is this? I'm going to find Cash. What is my Cash App? Oh, I'll tell you in a second.
All right.
What is it? Where am I? Okay. My name and Cash App is $, capital D, lowercase r, uppercase R, ANDY, uppercase S, HORT. So I'm $, capital D, lowercase r, uppercase R, lowercase a, lowercase n, lowercase d, lowercase y, uppercase uppercase S, lowercase h, lowercase o, lowercase r, lowercase t. So yeah, send me something. It'll be a blessing. And trust me, I'm worth it, y'all. If you've noticed,
yes,
the whole country is turning against the Equality Act.
Yes.
It's finally gotten through. It's finally gotten through.
You know, Doctor, if you can send me that link, I will put that link in the description on this video. Just, email it or text it to me or whatever.
I'll text it to you. I'll text you 2 ways as people, because definitely, you know what? I have to tell you this. I always have the same problem. I have to pay off this bill, and part of what my bill is behind is someone that was really kind and blessed me, but I told them someone else needed it, so I split it with my sister. My sister, Dorothy Gaines, the one who was in jail for 6.5 years. And I'm still trying to raise money for her. We're going to get a few hundred. By the way, his son got burned with baby oil and had a piece of his face put out yesterday down in Alabama. And we were on the phone last night praying for a breakthrough. So let me share this to you now. And let's keep moving. What else can we do, brother?
What's that?
Let's bring the questions, whatever you want to talk about. Let's do it the best we can with the time we have.
Yes, let's do. You just heard today that in Tennessee, life in prison for abortion doctors.
Let's be honest about what's going on. There's another piece of news that you may have missed, and that is that the United States has the lowest birth
rate, yes,
natural increase in 30 some odd years. And so this is about making white women have babies. They don't care if black women's babies
yes die. I've been telling people that. Yes,
they don't care if black women kill all their babies. In fact, the story from Tennessee, right? Not Tennessee, but Texas, where the woman, Miss Hunt, was shot down by a Hispanic killer cop out near Houston. and shot her 5 times. She said she was pregnant. They focused more on the fact that they alleged the woman wasn't pregnant than the fact that she was murdered in cold blood, literally in front of where she lived.
For no apparent reason?
Well, this Hispanic dude knew her, probably even got some sex out of her. A lot of our sisters need to understand these people from other cultures don't take crap off of black women like black men do. A lot of sisters really, I know we've got some awful black men, but we got a lot of black men that are patient, that deal with all kinds of stuff from sisters. But these white men and other men will kill you. They do not have the same value for black women's lives that the average black man or black woman or black boy has. And these Hispanic folks have been murdering black folks, and they keep being counted as white. All the coons that are listening to this that disgust me, that are running around championing DACA and open borders as these people come here and murder us in Miami and in Chicago and in Houston. And where's that boy got killed up in Minnesota? The Latino cop murdered Castillo. Okay, Spanish, yeah. And this happens all the time, and folks will call them white just because they want to be identified as white. And you know what? The Latinos with you call them white. The man that beat and broke Sandra Bland's arm was a Hispanic. I know sisters want men with straight hair to sleep with them, but my God, what a price.
What a price. What a price. You know, Doctor, do you have any knowledge or opinion on the 5G technology that's going to be rolling out on us?
I haven't kept up. I know folks say it's dangerous, and I know that there have been cases where they've had to move cellular towers away from school areas because of the impact of fertility of young women. And you notice that they put those towers in black areas extensively. So if 4 or 3 does something, what does 5 do?
Exactly. What does it do? And from what I've heard, it basically irradiates us from the inside out.
Well, they do want people gone. They do want people gone. But I'll tell you this, and folks aren't going to like what I'm going to say, but I'm going to say it. With God, all things are possible. Okay, I'm looking at Farrakhan. He ain't perfect, but he sure brought the truth last week on the Talmud, and the whole country is shaking.
But he got banned as well.
That's okay. Farrakhan, that little bit he said about the Talmud, I mean, that was classic. It's true. And you know what Farrakhan does? Well, he basically brought out that the Talmud teaches that Jesus Christ is cooking and boiling shit in hell. This is what the Jewish authoritative book does. The Jewish authoritative book, which is the collective book called the Talmud, say that Jesus Christ was the bastard son of a Roman soldier named Pantera, and that Mary was a whore.
Wow.
And the same Jewish Talmud teaches that black people are black because God cursed them because allegedly Ham either must have put his dingling up up Noah's behind,
right.
And that's why we've been punished.
So
okay, that's in the Babylonian Talmud. So, so we have shamefully elongated genitals because of that. Our hair is twisted into kinks because we were looking over our shoulder at Noah's behind, and our lips are big because we lied. This is in the Talmud. Wow. It's not the biggest scam of all times that these stupid-ass Afrocentrics and so-called conscious community need to preach is that the Bible has the curse of Ham. There is no curse of Ham in the Bible. It's in the Jewish tradition. And half of the Negroes call themselves conscious, call themselves Hebrews. Well, damn it, that's your book. That's your tradition. What you're trying to get us into is where this garbage comes from.
Oh, I mean, when you told me that one night about, Jesus cooking over a cauldron of shit, how do you reconcile when people say that Jews, Christians, and Muslims worship the same God?
We don't.
Can you say that again?
We don't.
Wow. Wow. Wow.
You see, if you read the first the Epistle of John, if you don't believe in Jesus Christ, you're not saved. Yes, you're wrong. Well, Islam has him as a prophet. Judaism has him as a failed wannabe rebel who got knocked down. Well, that's Antichrist in the Bible book. I'm sorry, I didn't write it. People have to understand Christians are hated. We're hated by the early, or should I say, the Jews of Jesus' time and afterwards. They didn't like this new religion, and the Romans, who later became the Catholic Church, which also in some way gave birth to Islam. These folks have killed Christians everywhere.
And is there any particular reason why?
Well, basically, there's a lie in the universe and there's a truth in the universe. Muslim will tell you all truth is in the Quran. It's a perfect book. Everything is so. Which means if they say that Jesus is just a great man and the Bible says he's a God, we're not reconciled. We can't work that out. I don't hate nobody, but I know folks will hate me.
Right.
For saying what the Bible says. But here's the kicker. The Old Testament, clearly mentioned that there would be a Messiah that came. Whether people like it or not, it's stubbornly admitted to some degree in the Talmud. To some degree. But they don't want the one that they got. And that was foretold before Jesus came, that they wouldn't want the Messiah. Okay? And when Pontius Pilate had Jesus Christ put up on the cross, he announced it was listed the first and last time in 2,000 plus years that anyone was named as King of the Jews, Jesus Christ. Why didn't they take that off?
Yeah, why?
Well, let's just figure that out. So clearly, Pontius Pilate, these other people, felt that he was the King of Jews. And they haven't had a king since.
So
now, back to Islam very simply. If they teach that Jesus Christ didn't die on the cross, even the Talmud says that they killed him on the cross, where did they come up with this idea that Jesus didn't killed? And how can you use a book and argue against the book that you used to write another book? That's like me trying to bake a cake off of a recipe that uses milk, sugar, eggs, and a little bit of yeast or whatever. And I decided I'm going to make a cake with eggs and no yeast. And I'm going to say it's the first cake made. Okay. Well, it works really well if you kill people and threaten people. Then you have to believe that the second cake is the first cake is the only cake.
If
now I want to stop for one thing. I'm going to challenge all the people who are very dogmatic about their religion to look up the Egyptian god, Thoth, the own image, and look at the top of his head, the god of the falcon head. Look at the top, look on top of his head, and tell me which two dominant religious traditions have that symbolism today. It's not in Protestantism, but it is in other religions. And say to me, wait a minute, if it's a brand new religion, explain to me why symbolism comes from pagan tradition. I didn't say which one. Go look at anybody that knows.
You're breaking up a little bit, Doctor.
Don't blame me.
Could you repeat that real quick?
I'm saying that people need to look at the symbols of ancient Mesopotamian and Arabian deities.
So you're talking about Babylon and Samaria?
Oh, I mean, whatever. Look, don't blame me. Just go and look and tell me if you see anything that's consistent with what you see today. And if they're the same, how can you claim that it's different?
You really can.
Well, certain people know them, sending hate messages and threats and so forth. But I didn't make the symbols. I never paid attention to them. I got serious about trying to understand certain religions. And when I see something that's the same as with another religion, anytime people do that with Jesus, where they see he and Horus and all of them are the same, well, what about when there are continuities from other religions or ancient religions that you find in contemporary religions? Shouldn't they also be scrutinized and critiqued? And by the way, the MPs know that you'll be hurt in many cultures for thinking. Why can't you think? Why do you have to lose your freedom of conscience to not be killed or persecuted in certain cultures? What do they have to hide? If you are operating in the truth and in light, you don't mind questions. In fact, you can insult people, can curse the Bible and Jesus all day long. I'm cool. Try that with another religion.
Well,
in fact, don't curse. Just ask questions. And you'll find folk are ready to pop you upside your head, hurt you, blame you for thinking.
Isn't that because a lot of religions require the believer to kind of defend the faith from heretics and blasphemers?
No, it really breaks down to a very simple principle. If you represent the truth and you represent what is right, it stands on its own. You don't even have to fight for it.
That's true.
If you've got something that is not defendable, then you have to defend it. As I said to a very dear friend of mine, you will not find a symbol, although people claim the Ankh and all this other kind of things. The Ankh and the cross are two different things. Although they come to community people, I understand they got to have these ancient religions blended into another one. Very simple. The Ankh represents something very different from the cross. That's why one has holiness and one doesn't.
Hold on.
If the cross had a holiness, I would say it's the same, but the fact is, a lot of things are similar, but they're not the same thing. However, I can tell you, look at Toss, just God with the falcon head, and look at that God. Take some time, do it right now, and tell me where you've seen the other symbols. You will not find something that looks like the cross in Egypt that's identical to the cross. It's a stretch with a hole in it, and it's round. It's very different from the cross. But if you look at Thoth, and you look at Baal, and you look at some of these other gods and deities, you will find the exact replications of those symbols and existing religions today. Bring it up, and you'll get into a lot of trouble with people. Because when you ask them, well, what is that? They're not going to want to talk about it.
I got a question from the chat room. Can you speak on the star of Rephaim?
Remphan. It's real simple. There is no Star of David, but there is the Star of Remphan, or the Star of Molech. This is the god for whom the ancient Canaanites and others aborted, ritually burnt up their babies, sacrificed them
to this God. And so there's no Star of David. And in fact, it's similar to the pentagram for which you cast spells and so forth. So there is no Star of David, but there's a Star of Remphan. If you go to the book of Acts in the Bible, I think it's Acts 7, the first martyr of the Christian tradition, or at least the followers of Jesus, is Stephen. He is stoned to death for bringing up to the people that they don't worship the God of Moses or Isaac or Abraham. They worship the Star of Remphan. And their response is to just kill him on the spot. They did not dispute him. They killed him for saying it out loud.
Wow. Now you're saying the Star of Remphan is used to control demons?
No, I never said anything of that. I said that star represents the God that people kill babies for. There's a place outside of Jerusalem that no longer exists that had the name of Gehenna, or should I say Hinnom. It was a place where you took your trash and dead bodies. They used to abort babies to the satanic gods. Jesus makes reference to Gehenna in the story of Lazarus and the rich man. And so it was a place that you took your trash, where trash was burned, where bodies were burned. And prior to that, it was where the kings who turned their back on Jehovah God, sacrificed their children to Molech and to Remphan. Sorry, Molech, Ashereth, all these other pagan deities that required child sacrifices.
Wow.
It's in the book, and that's where that star comes from. And there is no Star of David. However, look at all the stupid, idiot, Zionistic, fake Christians who are running after a star that represents the abortion and destruction of children. And by the way, they call themselves Christians. The first martyr of their faith denounced the very star that these people are pushing as the will of God, that everybody run after Israel. I'm not saying anything should happen to the state of Israel, but I am saying that this Star of Remphan is made reference to in the Bible. If you're a Christian, what are you doing running after something that used to get Christians killed?
Right. I'm going to take 1 second. I'm going to try to place a call to Judge to get him on the line as well. I don't know what's going on his, but just hold tight 1 second, everybody. Let me give him a call real quick. I'm just using the call-in line.
Brown speaking.
Yes, Judge. How you doing? It's Patrick with Special Report. I'm glad I got you.
Yeah, hi. I was just getting to call you back. When you called me, I was standing in line at a business establishment.
Oh, well, can you hold tight 1 second? I want to get you on the cell phone.
Okay, cool.
I'll call you right back. Hold on, Dr. Short. I will get Judge on the line here, and we'll have this how we should have it. Hello, Judge. How you doing? I got Dr. Randy Short is also on the line. Hold on. Okay, Doctor, you're there?
Yes.
All right, and I have Judge Joe on the line as well. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Got a lot of people in the chat room with a lot of questions for both of you. Everyone's very excited because, once again, gentlemen, this is history being made. There's been no show thus to human history to have both you gentlemen on at the same time, and I'm humbled to have it.
Thank you. All right. Brown is a legend, so.
Now, Judge, we already talked about the abortion bill in Tennessee, where basically doctors will be put in jail for life for abortion.
That's not in Tennessee. That's in Alabama, isn't it?
Yes, Alabama. My mistake. Thank you for the correction. Yeah. So is that even constitutional?
It's not constitutional. at least as the law stands today with Roe v. Wade. And what they are actually trying to do is to get this passed so the ACLU, which has already indicated that they're going to take it up and sign in the law, or a veto is overridden and it becomes law. And they want this test case to go up to the Supreme Court so that Roe v. Wade can be re-examined. They think that the current court, as it is composed now, will do something about Roe v. Wade. Seriously, I do not think that the opposition to Roe v. Wade is going to come from the Trump appointees, but from the first two that Obama put on the court. And that may be a surprise, but I doubt that they will do much to throw Roe v. Wade out of the window, because as the very first U.S. Supreme Court case said, all law in this country, which they said is the common law until superseded by statutory law, regulation, or ordinance or statute, is such that it is based on, quote, tradition, precedent, and the evolving conditions of society. Now, what Alabama is trying to rely upon is the evolving conditions of society, indicating that society is now opposed to this. So the precedent outside of the propaganda, which does not necessarily reflect the reality, I don't think we've had an evolution in the positions of the majority of the people in this country such that Roe v. Wade would be subject to being overturned. You might see some more permitted restrictions on the state level, but I don't think you're going to be able to find the Supreme Court in this day and time or in the immediate future that would be willing to overturn Roe v. Wade.
Wow. Now, Judge, Dr. Short has mentioned the basically the bill that's moving through the Senate and the House, obviously. I think the official term is the equality bill, but it's really not about equality. It's about expanding pervertness and deviant behavior.
You're talking about the so-called Anti-Lynch Act, sponsored by Kamala Harris and Cory Booker.
Is that the one, Dr. Short?
No.
Could you tell the judge what we're talking about?
No.
Okay.
That bill, they're going to have to reintroduce. This is 2282 that's been renamed.
Oh, 2282. That is poison.
Which is now HR 5.
Yeah, 2282.
2282 is now,
HR 2282. It's been around for a while, and what you have to deal with on that, in 1972, they had what they called the gay rights agenda. And on number 5 or 7 for state action, they said to have the age factor in sexual consent removed.
Wow.
And what they're talking about to change the definitions of protected classes under 2282 reads just exactly like I would get back when I ordered a child molester or a child rapist to be mentally evaluated, and the language is precisely the same. So it's part of a move, I think, to legitimate pedophilia and also extend federal protection to the LGBTQ rainbow thing.
At our detriment. Us melanated black and white, or black people of the United States are going to be succeeded by a bunch of perverts and atheists.
Well, I'm not even so concerned about the atheists. I'm concerned about the perverts.
Yes.
Or let's be charitable, those who are different. Now, we have to accommodate the handicapped, the ill, the mutilated, and what do they call them? The challenged.
Yes, no
But
problem.
what you don't do is when you're accommodating someone who's challenged, you don't turn around and advocate that everybody else have an arm or a leg cut off or an eye or eyes put out to accommodate those who are challenged. And there is another little thing here, although I am told 4.5% of either gender of a given population is going to be that way. When you get social approval, it jumps up to double for each gender. So I don't think that's necessarily a good thing, because Mother Nature set it up a long time ago about sexual attraction between the genders, and the human child breeding and child rearing scheme, and they are just trying to destroy that all to hell. One of the things that has been their 50-year-long target is a traditional family, which they want to get rid of. They want to get rid of masculinity as a positive evil. And I can remember them on campus 50 years ago at UCLA advocating that all masculinity was toxic, and the way to get the public to perceive that as such is to get the media to declare little bits of actually non-masculine behavior declared toxic masculinity until the public gets acclimated to the terminology, which is what they've done. So it's a bad thing for the human race. It's a bad thing for this republic. It's particularly bad for black folk, since we have such a low incidence of the traditional family. The Defense Department in 2011 wrote some white papers because they were alarmed. They say we can make you physically strong, but we can't make you tough. That's something you have to come into the service with. And they noted as part of their observations about lack of mental toughness is that if you put all Americans of all ethnicities in the pot, their finding was that 42% of the American public, 35 and under, was born out of wedlock. And back in 2010, which is the last they had the statistics, when you get a situation where you're talking about 20 and under, you've got approximately 82% of the population, 20 and under, is born out of wedlock, and that includes all ethnicities. And the statistics are even worse for us. So it is a very bad thing, and it is not good for the race, it's not good for the country, and it's not good for humanity.
Yes. You know, I'm glad I have both of you guys on right now. The other day, a listener came up with a brilliant idea, and I started running with it. It's called the Hub. We have to get a plot of land. I have a construction company. The gentleman that thought the idea up has an excavation company. And we're going to get a plot of land, and we're going to build our own community to where we own it from the streets all the way to whatever little government institution we have there. I really want
that's a good idea, but now beware of something. Every nation, every people on the planet Earth has a long history of commerce.
Yes.
You cannot act in isolation.
Yes. Yes.
So those very factors that keep us from dealing with economic independence within this main society will keep it from happening outside. And then, to be candid, the biggest problem we have with black economics is not necessarily the black-white thing. It is what the churches have done to us. If you go to Jamaica, you will see, hey man, I got to eat up, man. I got my open my shop, man, on the end of this highway, man. It's 7 a.m., man, when the sun be coming up. Now, he might be only selling bananas and plantains, but he knows about business. We don't. And every dime that we could have put into developing black business, more than half of it goes into the collection plate at church, where one of us is praying for somebody to deliver them into success rather than going out and getting it.
right.
I say,
Latinos come in and they put pennies in a collection plate and cross themselves, say 2 or 3 Hail Marys. We go in and we got to show out, give tithe 20% of our income. And like here in Memphis, I got shown this 32 years ago. A friend was in the econ department at UCLA, and I went out there for a visit. He said, "You recognize these churches?" I said, "Yes, I do." There are black churches in the Memphis area. I said, but there's certainly not all of them. He said, no, it's not. It's just some of the larger ones and not even all of those. He said, do you know that in the next 20 years, they will be paying more than $6 billion out the door for mortgages that are going to places like Philadelphia, New York, Miami, not even staying in Memphis, and that has to be raised out of the black community. There is no way the black community can set up an independent economics scene with that kind of money being sucked out of it. This isn't all of it. This is just a small part of it. So we tend to go throw money at the collection plate when we feel down and out, when we ought to be saving it or putting it to some kind of use. We don't have time for the intricacies of learning a trade, occupation, or profession, or going to school. We're too into NBA, NFL, Major League Baseball, every other distraction we can think of. Atlanta Housewives, the Kardashians, or any stupid perverted nonsense, or we're all into our music, and we hang on the words of every well, not every dysfunctional, but every rap star that is blathering dysfunction.
That's true.
So Julius Caesar said the mob won't pay attention to what their betters are doing, and he was talking about the common people, if you give them bread and circuses. In other words, feed them and entertain them. And we certainly are overfed. We're too overweight these days, and there are thousands of entertainment outlets, and most of them you can carry around with your cell phone and be distracted. You see kids and adults with earbuds in their ears listening to their music and missing what's going on in the world. You look at Facebook, you look at YouTube, you look at Twitter, you look at everything, and nobody reads anymore. They all want to go to YouTube and look at a video for an hour and a half to pick up what could have been read in 5 to 10 minutes because they don't read.
That is true.
It's a bad thing. We're getting dummied down.
We're combating that, Judge. I did basically a music video with a clip of both you, Dr. Short, and yourself, and it's been getting a lot of attention and a lot of views. And I believe the only way to counteract the poisonous filth music is to put your wisdom, your and Dr. Short wisdom, and other folks that came through here, and put that to music to give the folks an alternative.
Yes. And see, there's this thing. Yo, man, like, hey, I'm 23, man. I ain't gonna see 24, man. Like I'm a dead man. Like, would I care? Well, you should, because if you adopted manhood, you have a cause.
Yes.
There will be daylight at the end of your tunnel, or there may not be, but it doesn't make any difference because it's your obligation to fight your way through the smoke and flames and the fire-breathing Gila monsters that are setting everything on fire to get to the end of the tunnel, or even if you don't make it, to get the people you're charged with protecting and taking care of and providing for, to get them there. So it's not a matter of, yo, I ain't got no daylight at the end of my tunnel, man. What I care? Because you take pride in being a man and doing what you're supposed to do every damn morning when you look in the mirror to brush your teeth. I hope you do that. Some don't. Shave or brush or comb your hair. You have somebody looking back at you who's going, man, did you do all right yesterday? Man, you know you didn't do right. You shouldn't have done that. All right, man. You right, man. I'm right about myself, man. I ain't going to do that today. I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do today.
Right.
See? And that's what we lack. We had a thing that I saw started 50 bloody damn years ago where there were opportunities all across this country for black men and women who were trying to be something, to get a college education, vocational training, and move out to projects, move out the worst part of the hoods and be something. But we left those people in there that were on the bottom end, particularly the women. Now, I can remember an instance when a good friend of mine and I were interviewing in, I think it was Nickerson Gardens out in LA, which was a very bad project then. And people were coming over, brother, this is true, man. You can get us in college. You got some funds, man. We can get in. Yeah, brother. What I got to do, man, I got to get out of here. Go over there and see the sisters in the rec room. They have some paperwork they'll fill out for you. Man, I'm on the way. And this particular one I'm thinking about, he died a few years ago as a heart attack, but he's a wealthy man and had a PhD. Another sister came in 2 people after him. She died breast cancer, but she had a master's degree. Her children all got PhDs, and she started up some businesses in California. She said, brothers, I got to get the hell out of here. So what can I do? Et cetera, et cetera. Go see the sisters in the rec room. Okay, that's fine. They left. That was the leadership. What happened was is we got too much of the next kind. Yeah, look, don't get no ideas. I don't want to be the hell up in here. My social worker said, I got to go see you, church, if I got to keep my check. I don't want to be up in here now. I ain't going to no goddamn school. I ain't going to get no goddamn job either. All I'm going to do is flat bag spread and get knocked up and get me a bigger check. Y'all can go to hell if you think I'm going to get a job, but I'm over here because I'm supposed to be over here to talk to y'all. Y'all sign off that I came in and saw you. Now, tracking her for some years, what happened is she got shot to death when she went in with one of her sons and her brother, who was the boy's uncle, to hold up a damn liquor store. So, you see, we left her there. And in the early 1970s, mid-70s, when I was the public
Hello?
black witnesses and black defendants, I'd go down there and they'd have a cigarette, a joint, tobacco in one hand and a 16 ounce of malt liquor in the other. There'd be 3 or 4 of them in their kitchen in the projects. Smokes all filled the place. The kids are dying of secondhand smoke, snots running all down their faces. They're dirty. They haven't had a bath in 2 weeks and they stink. And they're going the N-word, N-word. You're nothing but a dog in, like just like you're no good dog in or dead, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And those same boys who were 4, 5, 6 years old at the time, 10, 15 years later, when they were in their 20s or late teens, they were calling each other the N-word and the dog, you know, because that's what their mamas had called. And that's all they'd heard growing up. So black people didn't start this nonsense. It was those dysfunctional females who stayed down in the hood, because in those days, the more kids you had, the bigger your check was. And when you had those babies, you didn't have to be a mama to those babies. Your mama would take care of, because I guess she felt guilty about not being a mama to the fool that was getting knocked up on a regular basis. We had 11, 12, 13 children and 9, 10 different baby daddies. You know, that's what corrupted us. The leadership left the hood. It wasn't segregation. It wasn't integration. And by the way, it really isn't integration that you should be thinking of it as. It was desegregation. See, I'm old enough to have experience going someplace and you can't use a water fountain. It says colored only. So when the white folk wanted to drink out of that fountain, they could if they wanted. It didn't say no whites. It said no colored anywhere else but there. They could use the black bathrooms if they had to. And the white ones were full. We just couldn't go the other way. So stop thinking of it as integration and think of it as ending segregation, so nobody could tell you what you could do. You could do what you want to do. It wasn't just about going to live next to them. Nobody wanted to do that. But it was getting away from roaches and hellholes and garbage sometimes, moving to a neighborhood where your kids could go play without worrying about some fool shooting them, knifing them, or doing some kind of wrong or talking stupid nonsense about the wrong kind of thing as the ideation you were trying to, or not trying to, but putting in your, a child's head by being stupid. So there were a lot of things, but one of our problems right now is they came up with superfly, cocaine, and other stuff, and they started glorifying the negativity, the dysfunction in black folk on television and in the movies. So the kids growing up, black and white, associate that dysfunction with being cool, because the people that run Hollywood, 85 to 90% of them on their own brag are into that rainbow mess, where their number one goal is to destroy the traditional family because they couldn't have one or can't have one. And the other one is to destroy masculinity, which is the order, rational, and reason factor within humanity, because they were outed basically by masculinity. And masculinity ain't pumping iron looking bumped out. It's a set of behavioral standards that you have that cause you to act more or less acceptably, so you become a man of peace and order who can become brave and courageous when necessary, and you make where you live a better, safer, more secure place filled with economic prosperity, morality, and a sense of ethics and purpose. Yes. See, that's what masculinity is about, but they want to destroy that because that's an innate one. They try and adopt our methodology, but the bottom line is you can't tell them gay unless they're dressed like they're gay or act like it. And then as far as that goes, you know, Mother Nature has gone through 3.8 billion years of making male and females attracted to each other. So if you're a guy walking down the street, you see something switching in the corner of your vision, you know, your peripheral vision, you go, oh, hell, and oh, God damn, what in the hell is that? You know, and then now they're trying to legitimize it so they can go masquerade. Like, and they don't want to deal with reality. I'm sorry, it's been against the law, but it's a fact of life. I got elected to 2 8-year terms as a criminal court judge before I got this show. And then sitting on the bench, you know, I saw a whole lot of homicides where the provocation was somebody acting like they were something they weren't. And somebody was kissing and feeling all on them, but didn't get down there. And then when they found out it was, they threw up and then killed the dude and relied on temporary insanity, which usually worked as a defense. See, that's a reality of life. They want to say everybody's like them, but they're not.
Right.
So they have a right to do whatever in the devil they want to do in their bedroom, but they have no right to come into my living room and tell me what I'm going to do in there. And likewise, they can advocate for their position, but they have no right to take over the school systems and the agencies of propaganda and socialization and acculturation and start trying to raise our children like them. They are an abnormality. They are not normal, but you have to accommodate them, just like somebody born without a limb or handicapped. You have to accommodate them, but there's no thing that says you have to allow them to make our children like them.
Wow. How come we don't get no accommodation?
We never were. See, this country, like any other large group of people, responds to stuff like these ASPC commercials, ASPCA commercials. Poor Marvin, he's been out in the cold all winter and he's shivering and there's no one to see to him. We're asking that you send a contribution immediately so that Mark's own love before it gets too late, etc., etc. Well, they did that with their two-legged animals, Negroes and the colored, and they did a lot of things like the NAACP. Jews backed the NAACP. Why? Well, if you couldn't do it to a Negro, you couldn't do it to a Jew. Wow. And then Thurgood Marshall got the idea way back when of the way to deal with black folk is if you couldn't do it to a dog, you couldn't do it to a Negro, you couldn't do it to a Jew. So most of our civil rights advances for the first 50 years of the last century did not come from civil rights laws. They came from ASPCA laws. What's that? American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. So what has happened right now is you still have this need for altruism in the country, but instead of dealing with their traditional objects, if they're so disposed to be altruistic, they've got new ones, an elective minority. It consists of their friends, relatives, neighbors, children, and work associates. And they look like them, and they're non-threatening because for the most part, they certainly don't act like men. Now, even on that, there's a caveat. Julius Caesar and Alexander the Great were some real live badass, ass-kicking soldiers, but they were gay. But you see, right now, the popular thing is the other kind of gay, where they swish and they dress up and act like women and they flip their hands and switch their behinds and they mince when they walk instead of walking. See, there are two types of homosexuals. Those that hate the opposite sex and those that want to be the opposite sex. Right. So we've got all kinds of sicknesses, and they're doing stuff like there's a thing going around Twitter right now. It shows a cartoon baby take a bath. So they got a white kid in the bathtub splashing, and they've got a white woman and a white man, and they're an obvious couple, and they're shampooing the baby's hair. And then while the white baby is there in the bathtub, this black baby slides in. And then instead of having a husband and wife, they got two black males, and they're shampooing the baby's hair. And then it follows up with a black girl in the bathtub, and instead of a mom and dad, you got two women shampooing her hair, mama and mama. And then they've got one where this Mexican guy is a single parent, and he's taking care of the baby. So they've got a Macy's commercial they had last year for Christmas with these distinctive pajamas. And the first one, they've got 3 kids, a white woman and a white man, and they're obviously all together because the woman's got a wedding ring on her ring and her finger, and so does the guy. Then they got another one with 2 kids, a white woman with a wedding band and a white guy with a wedding band. And then they've got 2 males, one white, one black, and they've got 3 kids that are mixed, so they got 2 gays taking care of them. And then they have one black woman with 4 kids, and then one black woman with 3 kids. So they're pushing black, single female head of household 2 times, and some black being gay 1 time, and then 2 traditional families, but they're white. They keep doing that, see, and they're experimenting with us just like we're lab animals. You go test it out on the guinea pigs, then you try something else to see if the new drug works or the new procedure works. And that's what they're doing. We're the guinea pigs for this system. Now, gays have an absolute right to do what they want to do in their bedrooms, but they don't need to try and convert our children.
Right. You know, Dr. Short, do you see what the judge is saying is playing into the homosexual agenda?
Say that again.
Do you see what the judge is saying about how homosexuals are getting into our schools? They're getting into our children's mind as a part of the overall homosexual agenda?
Yeah, and he left something out which is consistent with what he said about economics. They're also using the churches to push the gay agenda, churches and the schools.
How are they using the churches?
Well, let me explain. Under the laws that they're putting in, they're called SOGI. SOGI stands for sexual orientation and gender initiatives or laws, SOGI. When you create a situation wherein anything that receives public funds cannot discriminate, and discrimination from a homosexual perspective is very different from a heterosexual version of discrimination. Let me explain to you what I mean. The same way, the so-called trans, if you don't let them compete in women's sports, they consider that discrimination against them, even though they're men.
Right.
Okay, discrimination for you would be to let them, for them to be allowed to participate in women's sports, and from their alternative, should I say, psychotic point of view, they're being discriminated if they don't get to be women. You understand what I'm saying? Even though they're chromosomally male. So when you have people who have this radical, insane sexuality agenda and ideology, when they get power or influence, and they are powerful people, because as the judge explained, this invented elective so-called minority group are the children of the wealthy, powerful Jews and WASP and Catholics.
Yes.
And these people want to make certain that their children, that they failed or molested or didn't bring up properly, are taken care of. So in a sense, the creation of this fake sodomite identity is a means to bequeath a place in society for their children who would ordinarily not fit. So this LGBTQ thing, in reality, is another machination of white supremacy to give rights, privileges, immunities, wealth, and status, even if it wouldn't ordinarily be there, based on the premise that if you would do it for an N-word, you can do it for my sodomite son or daughter. So if you're getting the government money, the 501c3 or whatever it is, And the definition of the homosexual discrimination is if you are a pastor or whatever, and I'm the organist, and I have silicone titties, and I like children, and I've got a record of bothering kids. If you don't hire me, I've been discriminated against. Then now, if the law goes their way, which is what they're fighting for, you would have to take that person. In fact, you would have to prove that if you did not give the job to the man with silicone breasts that's questionable, you'd have to prove that you didn't deny it because he had silicone breasts and he was a man. So what they've literally done, what they're aiming to do, is to carve out, in fact, the very things that black people got a small piece of, that the judge alluded to, they've decided that they're going to get that piece of crust of bread or piece of pie that was set aside for blacks and then others will go to them. And in reality, you won't even be able to contest because they say they're minority and the law says they're minority and they have protected status. Therefore, me swallowing semen is the equivalent of your folks being forced to pick cotton and being whipped and exploited. And that will become law.
Wow. I got a question from the chat room for either one of you two gentlemen. This is coming from J.R. Israel. Question: what are some practical ways a community can combat this agenda? Please take into account the current dysfunction of the black community.
Okay, I got a brief reply to that.
Go for it.
There's no pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. There's an evolutionary nothing. It's a void. Next thing, as even the Nazis admitted, when they got deep off into what this Rainbow Coalition is doing, they said that if you tell a lie one time, it's a lie. If you tell it 1,000 times, it becomes the truth. Tell a lie long enough and loud enough that you can get anyone to believe it. They said the absolute enemy of the lie is the truth. So at all costs, the truth must be suppressed to avoid exposure of the lie. So what we can do is start saying the truth. They have a lie out there that this strange way of comporting oneself is acceptable now, widespread. It's not, but the media says it is, and it's a lie. So we can put it out. It's not accepted. They keep trying to connect it up to fundamental fairness like black folk. No, this is not a matter of race or ethnicity or gender. This is a thing of behavior. For example, you cannot discriminate against a person in a restaurant or on a business premises based on race, color, creed, national origin, religion, gender, or particularly applicable nowadays, medical condition. But you certainly can throw somebody out for behaving inappropriately. So there's nothing in the civil rights laws on the federal level that protects someone from their behavior. And you can be disposed to be gay, but just like a priest who may be disposed to be heterosexual is supposed to at least maintain control of himself and be celibate. Well, they can be celibate too, or they can refrain from that in unofficial, well, not unofficial, inappropriate fashions. Maybe they can, but you don't have to sit there and poison everybody else. So the truth will defeat the lie. So we have to start spreading the truth to defeat the lie. And that's what we're doing right now.
What I want to echo with the judge, the safest way to expose the truth is to talk about something that everybody has to deal with, and that is health and well-being.
Yes.
And if people understand that a disproportionate number of people that are same-sex attracted die by the age of 39 or 40, when the average man or woman is living somewhere to 75 to 80 years plus in the United States, that life choice can take an average of 40 years off of your life.
It's a health choice. There's another fallout too, where it has impacted the family. See, there is a logical and rational and reasonable set of conclusions you can draw from this rainbow TPIM coalition, and they don't want to deal with it because they are abandoning logic, rationality, and reason, which is an anti-masculine thing.
Yes.
And the conclusion is that violence in the neighborhoods is a result of a lack of masculine input, acculturation, and socialization. This rash of violence in the hallways of schools is a result of the same thing, because the apex predator on the planet Earth, that is the male human, is not being properly socialized and acculturated to take into context the fact that in the whole planet's history, we are the outstanding killers. I mean, if they actually had a Jurassic Park and managed to resurrect T-Rexes for real and a bunch of them escaped, they'd probably quickly be on the endangered species list, because the apex predator on the planet, i.e. us, would quickly have them in an endangered species position. We'd be killing them. Somebody wants, I've got a T-Rex head mounted over my den wall. It's my supreme trophy. I made the Roland Ward record book with this one. It is an enormous creature. It weighed 11,864 pounds on the way out, and the skull was 5 feet and 3.2 inches long.
That is so true, Judge.
And what I was going to also say, we need to deal with, just honestly, in fact, I just sent this off to one of my producer friends. We need to talk about the mental health issues. Anyone can go to the CDC, the government, and it will tell you that all health disparities, the sickest, most unhealthy population in America is gay. Fact. And how does the sickness come? The sickness comes with the sexual preference of those persons. Fact. So the government, the same government that tells you if I say it out loud, I may get punished. I may get punished if I say the same thing that the government publishes in its own reports. But let's talk about this more. The rate of divorce for those few gays that do get married is almost triple that of heterosexuals. The amounts of people getting married that are gay are much lower than heterosexuals. Domestic violence between homosexuals is much greater than domestic violence between heterosexuals. In fact, I saw a figure at one point, as much as 1/3 of the domestic violence against women in America is female on female. Why won't they share that with people? As much as they dog men for how they don't treat women, all the stuff, I'll agree, men have a hell of a lot to work on. But women are getting beaten more often by women when they're in relationships than when they're dealing with men. Meaning something about a man and a woman together is so healthy that men are often their better selves when they're with a woman that they love than two women together. Something else. Suicide, drug abuse, mental health issues are greater among homosexuals than any other demographic, no matter what race. And we can get into this. Anal cancer, 100 times more likely to get cancer in your behind if you're gay than if you're straight. If you're gay, you're up to 20 times more likely to have a superbug in your body than if you're heterosexual. This is my critique when I talk to gay folks. Because when they do sex ed, they tell heterosexual boys and girls the dangers of teen pregnancy. And they give you the downsides of having sex. Because it's interesting when they talk to homosexuals, they only talk about how great it is. How is that? How is it that there are no problems if it's paradise if you're gay, but it could be hell if you're straight? Who came up with this insanity?
Hey,
in reality, yes, sir.
How about this one? California, in their little gay sex thing that they say parents can't opt out of.
Right.
They show, starting in the 3rd grade how to use sex toys, butt plugs, and if your parents won't let you have
that. It's in kindergarten, I heard.
Yeah.
And the Healthy Youth Initiative.
Oh, and how about this one? If you are a boy and you're thinking of having anal sex with another boy, what the proper lubricants are, what you can use to stand in for the designated lubricants, like margarine, butter, Vaseline, and such like. And if your parents are not thinking and they're selfish, how you can get a cucumber or a banana and stand in for the toys. I mean, it's just, and it keeps this starting in the 3rd grade. They don't. Those are techniques. And then they're relying on Kamala Harris's thing, at least Orange County is, which is saying that if the parent refuses to allow the child to come to school during the days when this is taught, then that will be classified as truancy. And as per Kamala's precedent, they're subject to being arrested and prosecuted for truancy of betting. So, I mean, it's really gotten sick.
Yes. And they're moving this all over the country, but what they're also not talking about is the suicide. Like the school in Colorado where the girl, or whatever. I think it's a girl that thinks she's a boy, got mad and shot 8 people and killed someone.
Yeah.
Because people wouldn't call her a boy when she's a girl. This stuff is insane. It's unstable. And if we start talking about one of the gayest industries in the country, which is porn, the median age in which these people die who are in the gay porn is 29 years old.
Wow.
Now, you know what you're speaking about is the other unsaid thing. Based on what you're saying in terms of the official government statistics, the conclusion to any rational, logical, and reasonable analysis is they are dangerous health liabilities for the public health liabilities, because they are vectors for some very, very serious diseases.
Yes, like meningitis B. They're pushing all these meningitis vaccinations, but the meningitis B comes from homosexual men in California that were dying about 4 years ago. And they made it seem as if meningitis B is everywhere. Or shingles from the men eating bowel movement. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And so they're pushing this. You know, I was with my mother, and the doctor tried to tell her to get a shingles vaccination. I told my mother doesn't need doo-doo. She doesn't need it. And the doctor had to throw up his hand. Don't do that. You won't do that to my mother, not with me sitting here.
Well, you know, it's a lot of things going wrong, but it's too much of this, tell it long enough and loud enough. And they're propagandizing. See, we've had 50 years of this going on when they took over Hollywood. And even the Nazis admitted that they studied their propaganda methods by looking at what Hollywood did with its movies. That being the case, we have gotten much better at it, and they've been slowly pushing it. And those movies are the things that guide young people all over the world in terms of what's appropriate or what's not. So they get this, and they get a lot of confused people. They get girls who have the wrong ideas where, okay, this is supposed to be demeaning if I find this is something that I like to do. But on the other hand, this other thing is an appropriate thing to do, so I'll do that. I don't like it when the thing that's supposed to be appropriate happens because it gives me no satisfaction. And when I get satisfaction from what I ought to do, Mother Nature-wise, then I feel, oh, wow, we whoopee. I'm doing something that I ought to be ashamed of. Now, here's the other thing. Women get a whole lot of daylight, a whole lot of deference because they're mothers. Now, somebody has got to be in charge of, responsible for, and dedicated to raising the next generation of humans. And what happens is this. Right now, too many of them are so interested in being professionals, having a rewarding career and everything, that the institution of motherhood has been very badly eroded and ignored, and the family structure is not good. The family situation is not good. The child rearing is not good. And we've got all of this going to hell, in a handbasket. And what do we get? Sisters, you need to start focusing on being good mothers. And all of you don't have to be a mother to qualify. Some of you just aren't cut out for it. And if you're not, don't be. But we've got too many that are running around just because it's something to do. They don't want to wait till they find a man. They say something's wrong with men, which may be, but remember their mothers, aunts, and the girlfriends thereof, and their grandmothers and their girlfriends all raised these dysfunctional males who aren't men because they don't act like it. We got the thing they're calling masculinity down in the hood, which is just dysfunction. These boys down there that are gang banging, they're not acting like men. They're acting like lesbians and boys' bodies. A lesbian is raised like a girl. She likes nookie. These boys are raised like girls. They like nookie. And if a fairy, god, something or another waved a magic wand tonight and turned the lesbians into something with a dick tomorrow morning, there'd be no difference between them and your typical hood rat. And you're like, well, gang.
My brother, does he sound like me? And he's been doing it a lot longer. He's been doing it a lot longer. In fact, Joe Brown, Judge, I said if you change the amplitude, Judge, of the voices of the men, where you raise it where it's a higher pitch, instead of you would actually hear what they sound. If you just take the bass out of the voice of the guys arguing and fighting in the street, they sound like a bunch of girls.
Exactly. I'll say one more thing, and then, Doctor, I'll leave you because I'm listening to what you're saying, and you're giving me some good perspective. I used to campaign for a lot of people. I did politics myself, too. I got elected to 2 8-year terms as a judge. And you could go to something like a church picnic or a company picnic, and if you're looking one way, you can hear girls and boys behind you. This is what you used to be. You could hear the girls screaming shrilly and squealing and screeching, and you could hear the boys yelling and shouting. Nowadays, you can't tell because the boys and the girls all shriek, screech, and squeal. They sound alike. And you need to get this. Boy, you better get up off the ground. You didn't hurt yourself. Man doesn't cry about something like that. Wipe those tears off of your face. Right. Now you go, oh, baby, I know you hurt yourself. You can cry on mama. Mama understands. No manhood. You remember Star Wars Episode 5 when Yoda's riding around on Luke's back and he's going, a Jedi does this, a Jedi does that, a Jedi studies, a Jedi controls himself, a Jedi, that's the way we used to get it. A man does this, man does that. Your mama would tell you, your grandparents, your daddy would tell you, it just went on and on about appropriate behavior. Now, these boys don't know what to do. These girls don't know what to do. And one of the bad parts about it is when you don't have a daddy in a home, so you don't have a daughter who sits on daddy's knee and says, Daddy, please, can I have another $20 so I can go with Susan and Albert? And she pats him on the cheek. Baby, I just gave you something the other day. Daddy, please. Okay, girl, here's 20. Don't ask me anymore this weekend. But you get the ones that don't have a daddy. Instead of them doing that to their husbands or the man that's in their life, they stand up, one hand on hip, head wagging. Let me tell you what you gonna do. I'm going to make you go. What the hell's wrong with you? You going to make me? Oh, hell no. I'm out of here.
See, that's what they don't understand, Judge and Doctor. A lot of people have been, let's say, deprogrammed to understand how to deal with the alpha male. They look at us as if we're the animal, we're the problem. We're the ones who start war. We're the ones who are dominant in our households, which we should be.
Well, I use the term, Judge, I call them social hermaphrodites, where the men function, they may be male, they may be heterosexual, but they function like a female, and the females function like a male. I made a lot of people angry writing about this, but you see it. And my favorite thing is to poke fun at strong black women, because I'll tell you, that strong black woman that got shot down in Texas in the last day or two, she's gone, and it's awful, and it's racist and so forth, but when did this woman get in her head that she could fight with a grown man that had a gun? I'm not saying he was right to shoot it I'm completely against that. But where did this idea come from that you can go up head to head against a man? I've seen things like women swing at a man in public and think, don't you think he could swing back? Don't you know what a male is? If you hit him, you know, because I have this conversation with women all the time. I say, hey, wait a minute. I have seen women put their hands on a man in his face, yell at him, scream at him, and him maintain his composure for a while. I said to him, but I know if I do that to the average man even one time, we're going to have a fight.
Yes.
Do you recognize, sister, he allowed you to walk all over his dignity, and he didn't even fight back what he would normally do to me as a man. The first time I did it, even by accident, he may strike me. You did it to him 10, 20, 30 times, and then when he finally pops you, you scream he's anti-female, he's sexist, he's violent. How much psychological violence did you channel towards him before he responded? I'm not defending anybody putting their hands on women. I'm not. But I'm only saying, nobody's saying to the ladies, you know, if you treat a man a particular way, you know, my mother's a very fine person. In fact, my mother is president of American Mothers for Washington, D.C. and vicinity. I have never seen anyone disrespect my mother. My mother's 5'4", just as nice. And I've seen her handle men of all sizes. My mother used to pick up the drunk men on 5th and 8th. You remember 8th Street in D.C.? I know you remember, Jazz. It was a big heroin problem in D.C. And my mother would pick up grown men and carry them and wash them. I talked about with no clothes on. And dress them up and put them back out and talk to them about God. And my mother never had a problem. I'm talking about a woman who had a man's clothes on. But it's how she talked to him. Now, a drunk you don't know, a junkie you don't know, and she had that ability, womanly art and femininity, to talk to a man with his clothes off and be respected. I know a lot of ladies that can't be in a car with the man and not have someone cross the line with them. If you follow what I'm saying, there is a type of womanhood that we need to cultivate that we don't have, where women command respect without having to go toe to toe, try to have as much deep bass in their voice as the man has in theirs, or try to outpunch a man. It's not their role.
Right.
And I'm not going to take nothing from women. There was a woman at a weightlifting contest, and it would have been a black woman. And she's trying to break a record in lifting weight. And in lifting the barbell, she shattered both of her arms. I couldn't watch the clip. It hurt me to see that. But who told these women that they can be men? And why are women, I'm talking about mothers, not doing their job to try to let there be some space for males? In fact, this Equality Act is almost blowback on the feminist movement, because it used to be that every time you remember the women want to be in the men's locker room, the white women want to be in the black men's penises and do interviews in the men's locker room. And so the women got to be in the men's changing area. I don't know of anybody being able to go in the women's changing area to interview them. And I said, you know what, the women are going to pay for this, for violating male space. Some places, maybe in business, you can't get interviews or you want to meet people, so much set up appointments. I understand it. But in the bathroom, nope. But a long time ago, the women fought for, and they got access to be in the men's room. And I said, you know, how long before one of these twisted queens out here decides they want to be in the women's room? And a lot of women never imagined, because a lot of them have been taught to look down on being women. And of course, blame men. They're not against women. That's what feminists tell them. How long before someone says, I'd like to have the position that women have, so I'm going to claim to be a woman and get this space? And now this is happening. And the women didn't see this coming, that you need to allow there to be certain things for boys and certain things for girls. And that's not discrimination against girls or boys. It's letting them develop, letting them be. And somewhere in our women listening to white women and white toxic lesbian radical feminism has come at a great cost to black women that they don't see yet. The same way they're running after Kamala Harris, or they're running after Elizabeth Warren, or they ran after that Bush, Hillary Clinton. Our women are going to have to recognize that their best friend are the real black men. And our best friend for black men are the real black women. We'll never get anywhere without our real sisters and our real brothers coming together. And that we've got to find each other. And being a real friend, you know, when I was in Tennessee, I have a very dear friend, a beautiful woman. We're not intimate, but we love each other. And she's a gorgeous woman. Her name is Janet. A lot of folks can't understand, how can you as a man and woman go to the movies, sit down, giggle, talk together, talk about poetry, do this, and hang out, and y'all aren't doing anything? Well, first and foremost, I can't afford her on a certain level. On another level, that's not necessarily, everything between man and woman doesn't have to be horizontal. Like saying you have to screw your mom and your grandmother, and screw your aunt, and screw your sister, because if it's a woman, if it's got a hole in it, you got to plug it up.
You're getting a little muffled, Doctor.
Let me make an observation about some things. There is a woman I know. She's white. She's from Minneapolis, Minnesota, where they kind of have it easy on the race relations some places. And I met her because she was a flight attendant on an airline I was traveling on quite frequently. And she also does research on assassination. So I ran into her again through this thing about the Martin Luther King assassination. She's interesting. She's 50-some years old, and she has never had a white boyfriend. She's always dated black men. And she made a statement to me last time I ran into her at a conference. She said, you know, Joe, I never can understand some of these black women. They've got some of the best men in the world, and they run around trying to down them, and they are so much into this, I want to tear him down to size so he'll be in manageable pieces. Why in the hell would you want to tear a man down to size when he can do so much more for you if he's operating at 100% capacity or 110% if you give him inspiration? I just don't understand that. But that was,
I have a caller. We got a caller. They have a question. Caller, go ahead with your question.
Yes. Thank you for taking my call. I just want to say that I appreciate the doctor and judge giving the information. This is RJ Israel. I posted in the chat earlier.
Yes, brother.
I have a question here, and I see that a lot of our downfall currently right now is because we lack that masculine quality. What are some ways you suppose we introduce that strong masculine quality back into our communities? Because we have to fight against the media, which pushes this feminine version of a man, and we also have to fight against our women who haven't been used to a masculine man nowadays, because of a lot of them was put in jails back in the day. So I know speaking out is one thing, but how do you also introduce that into like a scattered community? Because we really don't have communities anymore, and we have to battle against all these feminine men that's in politics and so on and so forth. Like, it seems like a tumultuous type of job. How do we focus on one thing and attack that? Judge or doctor, either one. I appreciate your comments and thank you for taking my call.
Great question, brother.
Well, my quick answer is doing what we're doing right now so people know it's not cool. Right. So when they think about it and say, I just don't go for that. What's wrong with me? Nothing's wrong with you. You're normal. We're just dealing with the reality here. It's been propagandized. It's a lie. It's not true. Being a man is what's going on. Glory in the fact that you do what you're supposed to do as a man is hard. Most individuals can't cope with it. So when you do, you are above and beyond. Be arrogant about it. Be proud about it. Stick your chest out about it. But it ain't about doing what you want to do. It's doing what you're supposed to be doing. And that is the glorious thing about being a man and doing what
I would simply say to the brothers and to sisters, I use a term, and I know the judge is going to copy it. No, he won't because it's too harsh. But the term I use is, I'm forgiving you, I have to call it, brother fuckers. There are two types of black men. There are those who know how to build community. They care about sisters. They care about brothers. They want to work together. They're not individualistic. And they're real men. And then there's the brother fuckers. Okay? And you should cherry pick the people who don't want to be men, that don't want to be in community, that don't want better, and shun them. Shun them. And exclude
shunning, like you publicly shun them, or just more like, like a more
just don't be
man to man, and just say, hey, I'm not dealing with what you're doing. It's wrong. You're not even fighting for the cause of the community, so we're not going to deal with you.
No, I don't even think this needs to be confrontation. I'm nobody's fighter, but I've lived in a very tough neighborhood. The best thing I could do is have nothing to do with folks that were doing negative things. And be polite, be respectful, but have something else to do. We spend a lot of time trying to bring people along that don't want to come along. Okay? We need to share brotherhood, sisterhood, communityhood, peoplehood with those who are already converted. Okay? And the only people that you should try to impose values and mores on are those folks who are not the age majority that you can probably win over. I don't argue or debate with people over the age of 25. If they've made up their mind, they want to be stuck on stupid, you leave them be. And what the judge said is correct. We used to have lyceums. We used to have discussion bodies among black people all over the country. There were places that you would go and you would listen to discussions and solutions for the black community. Oh, yes, we did. We had them. And then we to do these things, I would suspect, in the 1960s. We've been 50 years. I don't know what that noise is. Do you hear it?
It's like artificial background.
Well, what it is, I got to put it myself on mute. That's a train going.
Well, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
So, in reality, we need to talk to each other. And I'll share with you, there's a lot of talking going on in the black community, but most of the time, it's not substantive. There's a difference between bad talk and good talk. And a lot of times we have, and there's something missing in our community, a lot of us don't have a moral compass to understand the difference between good and bad. We even do this in relationships. If you hear a woman say black men ain't S, or men say sisters are all B's, we tend to have a way of making everything one and the same when everything is not one and the same. A real solid black man that sisters back in the day used to call a good thing, or what brothers call a good woman, is very different from a skank who has his behind hanging out, or a dude who has his behind hanging out. And we have to put a premium, and we have to see the good when the good presents itself. I'll give you a very simple example. I got invited and I agreed to go out with a friend of mine, sister, and she basically told me she was afraid I was going to rape her. I'd known her 2 years, had never had an argument with her, never was aggressive or mean. But as far as she saw, I'm a black man. A black man that would be respectful and honorable is the equivalent of a black man that would rape her and beat her up. We're all black. And I see black men treat black women the same way. We need to begin to truly have a way of grading. We do it with marijuana. If someone has too much seed or other stuff in it, you won't buy weed from them anymore. If we took the same scrutiny for sports or weed or something that we probably don't need that we like, and we applied that to people that we dealt with, and I talk about from a positive standpoint, and concentrate on them the community would develop. And I will say to you, as a young person, I know people that I came up with. It took them 35 years to have a conversation with me, and not because I wouldn't talk to them. They had excluded me because I would go to school, get my job, do my work. Therefore, I was what you called a white boy or whatever that means. And anyway, and they had to come through all the garbage that they went through to decide that they can speak to me. They could have spoken to me 35 years ago. I'm trying to figure out what kept them. But a lot of our people have not come to the point of understanding that, one, they're very good quality black people like the judge and like this brother doing the show and others, and they're worth the time and they're worth the investment. And then there are people that we should leave alone. There are churches that you shouldn't give any money to. The only thing that church is good for is if you can't find a place to use the bathroom, they'll let you come in and you can do a dump there. And maybe you shouldn't flush. Go and be around things that are good, that are positive, and you don't need a crowd. Okay? Dr. King didn't have a crowd. Frederick Douglass didn't have a crowd. Rosa Parks didn't have a crowd. Nat Turner didn't have a crowd. Malcolm X didn't have a crowd. Nobody great amongst us needs a whole bunch of dead weight to find people and establish relationships where they can make an impact, where they work, where they live, where they worship, and amongst their friends and family. Yeah, this is a choice. We have a power. Every one of us has power of who we give our time, our energy, and all of that to. And we can be good stewards of it, giving it to righteous, good, legitimate people that we need to connect to, or we can waste it. And we have black folks, we have to be honest, they're scum. I have a branch of my family, I love them, but they're scummy. And I'm afraid to go around them because if the police were to kick in the door, and someone's got a brick of dope, I go to jail. I've never sold, used, never wanted to be around me dope. I would be destroyed by associating with them.
Yes.
I do not hate them. I understand what's happened, but I should not invest my time or energy in them unless they're trying to go the same way as me. I got another group of cousins the same way. The only time you see them, someone's had an overdose, someone's been shot, someone's house burnt down. It's never a graduation or a wedding. Trust me, I don't hate anybody. But why should I? Do I owe, just because we happen to be black and similar DNA, that I've got to be around their suicidality?
Wow.
Just because we're all black?
Wow.
Garbage. Garbage. And I had look, I'll tell y'all a true story. I've seen people who tried so hard. I have a cousin, fine woman. She's mentally ill. In my very dysfunctional family, she was the only one that went to school. She got a nurse degree. She's an RN. She was making money, and she's carrying her whole dysfunctional family. And one day she snapped at the job, and this is like 30 years ago. She's never recovered. Part of what she was trying to be there, trying to bring her brothers and sisters around. And it destroyed her. She would have been more useful to them, more resilient for her life, had she said, if y'all call me, I'll send you something Western Union or whatever, but I got to do me. And we've got to understand the black spiritual. There's a song, I'm on my way to Canaan land. I'm on my way to Canaan land. One of the verses is, if you won't go, don't hinder me. These are people talking about running away from slavery. If you won't go, don't hinder me. Because we've always had this stuff between those black people who are for what's right and what's right, and those that are for darkness. And a lot of people have confused darkness and pathology and self-hatred and illegitimacy and dope and foolishness as being black. No, it's Luciferian. It's wickedness. For me, black is righteousness. It's Martin Garvey. It's Martin Luther King. It's Harry Tubman. You understand what I'm saying?
I have
one last question. One last question. First, I want to say, this is my first time actually. My second time actually listening to your live TPIM.
Right.
Senior, I really don't know your name, but first of all, I want to thank you, brother, for bringing the judge on and doctor, because I truly do appreciate it, because many times I'm attacked by my family because of my strong views and how I stand against certain things. And I just want to say I have two questions. One to the doctor. I truly feel what you say when you say we need to have good talk and bad talk. If, for instance, a conference was to be had with, say, the black men of community, many black men showed up that want to move the community in a positive light, what would be your framework to establish good talk from bad talk? What would be like the founding, I guess the founding statements for that conversation, so we know this is actually good talk, this is how we move the conversation forward, and this is bad talk, and this is how we hold up the conversation. And that would be to you, doctor. And one for Judge. I hear you talk about the behavior aspect of masculinity. If you could list, because I grew up without my father. I had my stepfather in my life for roughly 4 years, and when I was like 16 to roughly like 20 years old, and he, things that I learned from him, I should have learned earlier. And I feel like I still, I'm 31. I'm 31 now, and I learned a lot of things late. But what would be a list of behavior qualities that you can give, so that we, as the men that are listening to TPIM live session, that we can pass on to other young boys so they can become right men, so we can start to correct the problem. Again, I thank you all, TPIM, Judge O'Brien and Dr. Short. I appreciate you all. Again, I'm just so happy to be on a live where I have other men that see what I see, and especially that you are elders and you can give that wisdom. So again, thank you for all the work you have done and what you're doing now, and I appreciate you.
We appreciate you. Thank you, caller. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
exactly. Who wants to go first? Judge, I'm going to say this very quickly. Good talk is something where, if nothing else, you can agree that you guys have a shared set of values, some shared goals, some shared rules of how you'll treat one another. Agree when you're going to meet, what you're going to do, and have some structure of accountability as well as reciprocity. What can you guys do for one another? And from here on out, things need to be at least something. When you're talking about men, needs to be physical. If I had to recommend anything that I'd like to see brothers come together on, that's something everybody needs, would be to do some urban farming or some gardening or whatever, and produce something jointly. Have something that we can consume, that we can share. You follow? And look and see what are the needs of the men within that group, their families, and their community, and what are likely things that can be accomplished within a certain period of time, and hold people to it. And one of the key rules is that people have to be upright in their conduct towards one another, upright towards the women of the men in the group and the children, and that you shouldn't have everybody come. We need to learn as a people. The Tuskegee Airmen were great not by who they everybody that came, but those select people that they knew would be successful pilots. They didn't take a lot of people. We make a mistake as a community. We try too hard to love and include people. We have to put a premium and some exclusivity around what Black solidarity and Black unity means. Everyone's not entitled to it because everyone doesn't respect it. You've got coons, stitches, sellouts, backstabbers, and everybody else. And you also, I have to say this for your group, y'all need to have a way to screen, because we need security, not just from the outside, but from the thugs and the scum in our ranks.
Yes.
I'll chime in with a list. If you read history, you can see what the list is in terms of the characteristics. If you study tradition, you can look at that. If you look at culture, you can see that. It's been basically the same for thousands of years everywhere in the world. Men are like lifeboats. We kind of hang around. You don't need us until the damn lifeboat is necessary. But when you have a Titanic situation, the lifeboats are very valuable. We set the order. We are the principal because our right brains and left brains aren't synaptically as well connected as they are in women. So we can tamp down the emotions, use them for inspiration rather than coloring our thinking. We're logical, rational, reasonable, analytical. We're cool, calm, collected. We can be cold-blooded and ruthless when necessary. We can be warm and caring when necessary, but we don't let any of the above get in the way of doing what we have to do. We work hard. We're willing to sacrifice. We glory in the fact that we might die violently because we're doing the right thing, not dying foolishly as a means of suicide, comparable to suicide by a cop. But we look at what we have as the task that humanity is set in front of us as something that we can glory in. It's not dysfunctional, it's reality, and you're happy, and at the end of the day, you can smile and sleep well.
Yes. What he's talking about, caller, we have to get to the point, this is one of the 48 rules of power. We have to get to the point where arguments are not won by mere talk. We have to win this argument by our actions, meaning that we have to show the world that we're not lazy, we're not ignorant, and we're not useless. We're useful, we're intelligent, and we are a beautiful people filled with love and potential.
Okay, well, let me say something on that real quickly. We have to counter this negative propaganda. For example, most people in the United States, including us, think we're the worst when it comes to paying child support, right?
Right.
Well, guess what? Every year for the last 30 that I've been to a judicial conference, we get into the statistics. Guess what ethnic group pays their child support most regularly out of all of them? It's black men.
And Judge, black men are more likely to raise children alone than any other group of men in the country, and black men are more likely to do chores, cleaning, child care, and multiples above every other group of men in the country. I'm not talking about 1% more. I'm talking about 30, 40, 50, 100% more likely to do these things than any other group of men.
See, these are what we don't ever hear. We only hear about Ray, Pookie, and them. We don't hear about where we're succeeding.
Well, look at what Obama did in 2008 when he was running for president. He got up, and that's when Jesse Jackson got caught on of the mic saying he needed his balls cut off, because Jesse had talked to me about it, and he knew he had already independently discerned the truth of the matter about who pays it best. Obama got up there in this mostly white Father's Day meeting in downtown Chicago, and he said, "My good black brothers who are in the audience, we need to do better. We are the worst in the country when it comes to paying our ordered child.
I went to Harvard with that coon, and I always share with people that Obama told the white folks and the Federalist Society that he hated black people.
Wow.
And so in fact, if you saw the news, Judge, of Dr. Ronald Sullivan, the dean that got fired from Winthrop House up at Harvard, his name is Dr. Ronald Sullivan, him and his wife. He's the first black dean, housing dean. I went to Harvard with Sullivan. He's a year behind me. They know Obama. Obama stabbed black people in the back. I never voted for him. In fact, if I wasn't blocked on Facebook, I found a bag with the Obama family on it. I would have put up there and said to them, I'm trying to figure out how to destroy the Obama memorabilia in the house without my mother missing it. But, my aunts and them follow me on Facebook. They'll snitch me out. Obama didn't like us.
No, he didn't. He wasn't one of us.
Obama's gay. He's not one of us. He told the white folks in Harkness Commons back in 1988 he couldn't stand black folks, but he's lumped with them anyway, so you have to make the best of it.
Hey, well, is he gay?
I think so.
Yes, he's
So
gay.
do I.
I'll say Judge
And
Obama's a faggot.
And I got in trouble. I called him old fag on the Roland Martin show. And it's not so much because of Obama's sexuality. My thing is that it's at every corner in which he could have done something for black folks, he didn't do it. He did the same thing at the Harvard Law Review. In fact, the allegation is, Judge, that Obama was removed from the head of the Harvard Law Review because he couldn't keep his hands off the whiteboard. That's discovered. I'm not saying I can put in writing.
And by the way, he wasn't 23 years old when he was on Law Review. He was about 30.
Yeah,
there's a hell of a difference.
He and I were there the same 3 years. I finished when I was 26. He's 3 years older than I am, so that means he was 26 when he started, and he would have finished at 29.
He put it back. He finished when he was 31. That's the truth of the matter.
Okay,
So
yeah.
He was 29. They modified his age so it wouldn't look so bad.
He's not an honest person, and I'll tell anybody, Joe Biden's son, Joe Biden Jr. picked up, what's his boy's name? The Jewish boy. It'll come to me once. Sinclair, who has a book out claiming that he had sex with Obama.
Yes.
And this boy beat Obama in court in April of 2012. They had tried to keep the book from being published, and the entire news media didn't cover it. But this book talks about him and Obama and drugs. And one of the things that happened with Sinclair, he was so mad that he couldn't expose Obama, he tried to commit suicide. The Secret Service broke in this man's house and resuscitated him and kept him from killing himself. He thought this is so stupid.
That's
funny. No, it is funny.
But
and
I did
by
see
the way,
Larry Sinclair's Washington Press Club speech.
Yeah, but Joe Biden's son arrested him, illegally arrested him and threw him in jail in Delaware, so he couldn't meet with the press after he did that. Okay? That's real talk. And this is why I was with Cynthia McKinney in April of 2008, and I told folks that Biden would be the vice presidential candidate because my godbrother, who's out in California, told me he knew a drag queen who used to do phone sex with Biden. And he used to say he did it with Obama, too.
Wow.
This man got killed in 2009 when Obama then moved to town. And so there's a trail of dead black men that is circumstantial evidence pointing to the fact that someone needed these gay black men to disappear for Obama's image.
Are we talking
But
about
you know what?
I'm not talking about that. Donald Young is in Chicago. I'm talking about somebody that was here in D.C. That's the fourth one that you never hear about. And he's allegedly connected to Biden and Obama. So when I realized this, I found this out in January of 2008. I understood that Biden was likely to be the vice presidential candidate, and I told people Biden's going to be it. And folks, it didn't happen. If I told somebody in March of 2008 and they didn't pick the vice presidential candidate until he won the nomination of the party in the summer of 2008, wouldn't you say I was ahead of time?
Yeah, you got it. You can call those things. I said Obama was going to be a scoundrel when he started running. And I've got some inside information that the Republican Party put Obama in the race to knock Hillary out so they could concentrate on, what's his name, Edwards. But Edwards was corrupted, so they got their boy in there anyway. See, this killing bit, Obama's adoptive dad, Lolo Sotoro, ran the death squads for the Indonesian army. He ran to get like Heinrich Himmler did for the Nazis.
Right.
So yes, served for years as the go-to person for the U.S. CIA in the Southwest Pacific when they wanted somebody hit. So it runs in the family. And the thing of it is ADOS, A-D-O-S, is a great phrase. American descendants of slavery or descendants of American slave or whatever the hell you want to call it. Because Obama doesn't have any. He's not, rather. If we had reparations, he wouldn't qualify because he had nobody on his American. He has no American slaves in his background. They're either white former Confederate officers, or they're Indonesian, or they are by way of adoption, or they are Kenyan.
And I've got to say this to you. I was in Libya with Cynthia McKinney, and Obama and Hillary Clinton did something. You know Walter Fauntroy. You've heard of him.
Yes.
They tried to kill my pastor. Those two. So there's nobody, I don't care nothing about any of them. They let Fauntroy come back before the election in 2016. In fact, I was talking to Raymond Fauntroy today. They did not want people like me talking about Obama and Hillary with the slavery and genocide that they're doing in West Papua. Obama's relatives are running a genocide on black people right now in West Papua. And Haiti. I have family in Haiti. The stuff that he and Hillary did in Libya, it is disgusting.
They hate that woman in Haiti.
Yeah, well, I hate it too. Pray for me. Okay.
No, I don't. Good luck. Maybe
Okay.
cast the hate from my ass.
She tried to have my pastor killed. They meant to have Walter Fauntroy. They used him as bait to get Gaddafi, and then they're going to kill him and put it off on the Arabs. So no, forgive me. You upset me bringing up Obama. This is just going to make me angry. I've been mad at black people ever since this dude showed up. We've been tricked by this dude. We've had some real. We had Republicans like Arthur Fletcher. He wasn't perfect, but he loved black people. You can be a Republican or whatever. You can be a communist. Love your people. This guy hates our guts. And I think his wife's got a problem too, and those kids. I don't care. They're not his. I don't believe that. You heard she's artificially inseminated. I'm confused.
See, this gentleman is why the hub is so important. And actually, the gentleman that kind of brought it to my attention, Brother T. Will, is actually in the room. And I know to a lot of people it sounds crazy. It's not isolationism. I'm not talking about trying to remain separate from society, because that's dangerous. That's a bad
Can we be isolated from coons? I do want to be segregated from self-hating black people. I don't want to breathe the same air as black folks who hate themselves. I'm sick of it. Well, give them a planet out in the solar system, and all the black people that hate themselves, give them a World Trade Center to jump off of. I want to be around people who love us, who care about us, who want to build us, who are willing. I don't mind suffering or being, I grew up segregating things, being the only black person, 1 or 2 or 3. I've never been ashamed of being black, but it's astounded me. So many of us hate our own guts. We hate God. We hate our ancestors. We hate our elders like Judge Joe Brown. We hate Dr. King. We hate Malcolm X. We're so full of hate. We're self-destructing because there's nothing that we feel that's grateful about. Yet everybody wants to be like us. Everybody wants to be with us, but these self-hating coons. We need to be free of them, inoculated, separated, quarantined. If you don't like being black, you don't respect black people, get away from me.
Right. But don't bring it up to behavior.
That's what's wrong with these gays. They hate themselves like these colored folk that hate themselves. And unlike us, we had a black and I'm proud thing, they want to do the tranny thing and change their gender. And they don't want to act like what they are. They want to act like the opposite gender. Or they want to compete against women as women. See, that's what's wrong with them. They hate themselves.
They want to kill us off like that one. Who's the one that produced this empire? I can't stand him.
Oh, God, that's horrible. That is disgusting.
I hope he catches something. All the stuff he's putting out here with this movie, Precious. It is these people. In fact, these folks talking about stuff a community can do. When these people put stuff on television or the radio, there used to be a thing called the Catholic League of Decency. You could, Ray Charles' song, What I Say, only went to number 6 on the top charts because certain white folks thought it was too nasty. They used to have standards. We need people who are willing to put some skin in the game and say, we don't want this filth. Right. We don't want this. It used to be you couldn't perform in South Africa and maintain your popularity in the United States. I remember Stephanie Mills went to South Africa, and the people came to turn her out. She went from being loved to being hated in just a weekend. They did it to Sammy Davis for hugging Richard Nixon. We need to implement a consequence structure. You cross your people, you stab your people in the back, you disrespect an elder, you put your hands wrong on a black woman, we're going to get you. You'll wish that you're in the white man's court if before we get you. We used to have this as a community. My grandfather's one of those folks where you might be in the Anacostia River if you messed with a child. You'd run to jail. You'd beg the people to lock you up because the people in the community want to find you. Every now and then we see a vision of what we used to be when those guys went and mugged Rosa Parks and the community went looking for these dudes. These guys, this man wanted to take his life because he knew the community, he had gone too far. If we could create a situation where if you cross the line with us, that includes if you're no good pastor and you're putting all your money in a white bank and you got Hispanics cleaning your church and you got unemployed church members, run that coon out of town and take his white Jesus with him. If we were to make people pay, make treason against the black race come with the premium.
Gentlemen, I'm going to have to sign off because I've got to. All right?
Yeah.
All right, I have enjoyed this conversation. We folk need to have more on a national and local level.
Yes. Yes.
Power to the people. Keep on doing it. Do what you got to do.
Right on. And that's what
Thank you, Judge.
I'm out of here.
Thank you. Thank you. Bless you, Judge.
Thank you, sir.
But to add Dr. Short's saying, you look at the controversy with Steve Harvey. You know, I'm not the biggest Steve Harvey fan, you know what I'm saying? But I hate to see any man going through a divorce and getting slaughtered out there in public opinion.
He's a distant cousin, and I have to say this, you know, Steve has to use more scrutiny, because if you go get married and you're a black star and people even perceive that you have money, if you got another wife or 2 or 3 wives out there, if you do, black men can lie to themselves. You may have a few more inches on your penis than the white dude, but you're not white.
Right.
And the court system is structured. There's a very good book called Black Men and Divorce by Sage Press. Black Men and Divorce. All y'all need to pick it up. The courts and everything is structured against black men when you get a divorce. Even if he's a good man, even if she just decided, I want half, I'm angry, I'm out, the courts are going to be against the black man. It's designed to destroy his family. It's designed to make the children fatherless, because in traditional cultures, fatherless children are effectively non-entities. They are dead. Remember, I was reading to you from the Book of Wisdom, brother? The book 4 of the Book of Wisdom. Remember that yesterday? When you don't have a father, you're nobody in many cultures in the world.
Exactly.
And so they want to strip the fathers out. So if you're a black man, you need to really think about who you're laid up with. I mean, yes, the juicy booties have their place. Nice fellatio rips have their place. All the little stuff that you like about what has its place. Thank God for our sisters. Nothing built like them. Nothing ever will be. Not even Kardashian. Okay. But you need to know what's going on between the ears of that woman, and if you're not spiritually and psychologically hooked up, I'm talking about really connected with that woman, and it's just some, wild kingdom sex or that keeps y'all together, that fades. If it's just that she needs a roommate that can pay bills, or you need a roommate that can pay bills, that fades. If Steve or other people are not picking ride or die partners, I talk about ride or die if you don't have any money. In fact, I tell you, a woman I'm really beginning to really like, Monique. I like the way she and her husband support each other.
Yes.
I've never been into Monique until I saw the dynamics of what at least they're showing us on YouTube. I love Monique and her husband. The whole world can come up against them and they won't turn on each other.
Right.
I love Monique. I am a fan for Monique over how she and her black man stick together. I love Monique. I hope that what I'm seeing is true. What has been presented to me, I adore. I love Monique. You've never even heard me talk about. I didn't like the Precious movie, but I love Monique for her and her husband standing up to that little sorry Negro. Forgive me, why can't I remember that little punk's name? I think he's just his smothered lover. What's his name? What's that Negro's name? The one that, come on. It's not Duvernay, that's the woman. What's this fool's name that always wants to push gay stuff?
RuPaul or Tyler Perry?
No, not Tyler Perry. Tyler Perry, believe it or not, is more positive than him. This one, God. Ask the chat room. Who's the nigga? Say that again?
Lee Daniels?
Lee Daniels. It should be She Daniels. Punk nigga. I like the way that she exposed him. I like the way she shamed him, her and her husband together. Now, if Steve Harvey doesn't have a woman like Monique, and vice versa, if he hasn't been a man to his women like Monique's man is to her, then he's in trouble. You see, I have a distant cousin, I believe, by the name of Camille Cosby, who's married to another distant cousin named Bill Cosby. Not everybody's like Camille that will stay that generation of royalty, and a lot of our women is gone. And a lot of brothers have had more chances than the damn genie out of the bottle can grant of how they've mistreated the system. In fact, you picked a woman from an abusive situation, she's been hurt, and then you get into a relationship with her and you begin hurting her, she has a cumulative effect of always being violated. What she's going to do, she's going to violate back. And the whole court system and everything, even the whole culture. You know, black men ain't shit. You know, he just wanted to get some cool to walk on. You don't want to make a man. Right? So, and you know, and there are 100 dudes who just want to get a quick dip in there who say, man, he should have been more sensitive. He's touching himself talking. He should be more sensitive to you. So, translation, I wouldn't mind thinking that myself now that he's gone. Oh my God, black men with no integrity. They think every hole they need to cap, like there's some wildcatter in Texas, East Texas, looking for oil. Please.
But doesn't that stem, Doctor, from when you have a sense of having no power, having no control, even over your life or whatever, you have to use these extra body, sex and how much to prove that you're a man.
You have a lot of control over your body. You have a lot of control over your body. That's the one thing. Your mind, your soul, at least I believe that as a Christian. That's the one thing. Offering your body is a modest sacrifice unto God. The one thing you can do is you don't have to have drugs and a whole bunch of illicit partners. So that's one thing you can avoid doing. Perhaps in slavery you could not keep master off your mama, out your bed, off your dad, off your son, but as at least to some degree free. That's the one thing, the one power I've said to before, the one freedom is to be morally upright.
Yes.
Especially men. It's something that you can do. Steve does not have to cheat on his wife.
Right.
How much, I didn't say he has, but let's say that's what's going on, like, what's his name, Wendy Williams' husband, and maybe if it had... So how much cheating do you need? I mean, I think some people are just greedy. They're just sluts. I'm talking about male sluts. The only difference between them is that they don't have a monthly. They're sluts. And the thing about these sluts is that you don't take care of the kids that result.
Right.
I'm not saying all, but there's some brothers out here, my God. And then there's some sisters out here. I mean, the cats in my alley care more for their kittens than some of these broads. And them on the Maury Povich show, and some of that stuff is real. with so many people so you don't know you made a sperm milkshake on the weekend and you don't know whose sperm fertilized your egg. You don't even know. You've been in there 15 times.
You know,
Revolving
a
door.
chatter in the chat room that said something, and I think it really pertains to what we're saying. So how much of this is mental illness going on? Basically, untreated mental illness.
Some is, but a lot of this is wickedness. You're not mentally ill if you get erect looking at Beyonce or Lupita. You're mentally ill if you think you can screw 15 to 20 people like Beyonce and no children will result or no drama will result. That's mentally ill. Okay? I went down to the Child and Family Services with a friend of mine who never missed a child support payment in 26 years. And there was a guy I went to school with who didn't have a lot of self-esteem, and he must have had 25 children. He had so many children and so little income. He was paying as little as $5 a month in child support for the kids he had. He was paying, but $5, we can't even get a Happy Meal with the ice cream. But that's okay. That's okay. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to judge. Let me be positive. Let me be fake positive like Negroes in the hood. Well, I'm keeping it real, but at least he made the $5. I mean, you know, you could do a lot with $5 right in the dollar store. You know, anyway. Right. You know, you need the fake positive black folks who keep trying to make this stupid stuff that some of us on. They want to make it positive. The one people that they hate are folks that talk about the real. Man, I can't stand. What's that dude's name? The one that did the Black Power. What's his name?
Wait. The new Black Power movement or the old one?
No, I'm thinking about the gentleman that wrote. And forgive me, I'm not remembering his name. But anyway, if it's a person that can think, they don't like them.
Right.
And there are a lot of black folks that are very happy to be around Peter Pan type folks who don't know anything. They're comfortable in being trifling. And they like that. If you put someone of substance around them, somebody's traveled or whatever, you even see that in church. Put a person that's halfway relevant trying to tell them something, man, I'm completely bored, man. I'm bored. Right. And that's right. But the preacher get up there and say, dog food, bark, somebody bark at the person next to you, dog food, can, somebody had some dog food, dog. And they could take 2 or 3 hours of that kind of foolishness. And to me, watching an obese person with the fat on the back of the neck that looks like a bunch of Italian sausages hanging off the back of their head, watching the salt stains in their shirt isn't exciting to me. I don't feel closer to God. I feel closer to trying to run for the emergency exit and hope that, you know, if there's a fire, I'm not there. Okay? But a lot of our people have made stupidity and superficiality and shallowness the essence of blackness.
Right.
Frederick Douglass was deep. Ida B. Wells was deep. W.B. Du Bois was deep. Benjamin Banneker was deep. Right?
Right.
Fannie Lou Hamer was deep. Constance Baker Motley was deep. Adam Clayton Powell was deep. We come from people who have depth. And when we fail to try to have depth in our lives and breadth in our lives of what we think about, what we're exposed to, we suffer. Let me share this with you. The concept of being middle class in the black community prior to desegregation had a lot of different elements in it. One element was that you were well read. You read books. You may know Greek. You may know Latin. You may know French, Russian, or German. Not that they had the African languages, and I'm sorry for all the Afrocentric type people out there going to complain. These people would know other languages. They traveled as best they could. They wrote well. They had good cursive writing. They had good manners. They dressed well. Do you see the old pictures of black people walking around? They look good.
Yes.
They look dignified. This, even if we could not have the things that they were taking from us, they were cheating us out of, we put on our best for ourselves. The little song that they sing, if you've done the best that you can and the world doesn't understand, okay, that all of our, even our songs talked about, even if these folks are stealing from us, ripping us off, denying us opportunity, we can still be our best.
Wow.
And we need to no longer, there's this expression, I hate the older people say, he ain't ready. But they mean it's not ready to be with white people. We shouldn't be trying to get with anybody. We need to be ready to be with ourselves.
Right.
And we have to set a high standard. When I think about the difference between going to Howard and Harvard is that at Howard, I would see people who wouldn't oftentimes do what they were supposed to do, black, because they're around other black people. Hell, I don't really have to study. We're all black people, so I could be trifling. I'm not saying all the time, but now and then this happens. It happened a little bit at Harvard, but far less at Harvard than at Howard, because certain black folks felt they had to please or compete with white people. And in reality, we as a people, we need to be competitive as to aspire for a standard of perfection, but we need to be cooperative with self, competitive to be about something, and our competition may not even be white people, but the rest of the world, because white folks are really behind the curve and everything. And a lot of them, as you look at all these people like Mr. Kushner and others, their parents pay money to get them into these elite schools.
Yes. So it came out a couple months ago.
But you know all about this. At Harvard and other places, you have these legacy scholarships. You can be the dumbest person in the world. But your father, your uncle, your grandparents went there, so there's money set aside to let you in the school, or even towns. If you live in a particular town in New England, there's money for you to go to the elite school. It was there before you were born.
Wow.
And the black folks who go to these white schools on athletic scholarships actually contribute. They do something. They bring more than the rich, spoiled white kids.
Right. They bring that new money into the system.
And they bring old as well.
Yes. Yes, that is true.
So we need to think about competing with the world, having standards to aspire to, surrounding ourselves with good people. For example, if you listen to any black group, recording group in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and even certain artists, they would sing both popular music and standards. It was required for them to do the standards. Why? If they wanted to go to better paying white venues, if they ever went there, they could sing music other than just one type. So if you go back and you look at, say, someone like Nat King Cole, or you look at Ella Fitzgerald, or you look at Dinah Washington, or Sarah Vaughan, these folks could do anything and do it great and better than everyone else. Our people need to get back to that there's something more to be desired in who we are, other than just keeping it real with our pants sagging, or tattoos on our titties, or our free balling with your behind exposed, or whatever it is. There's more to us than this.
Yes.
And we have to aspire to that. When I think about people I read about in history, black folks who go from Missouri to Africa, and it seems almost incredible now. They were doing that 100 years ago. In fact, I'll share something with you to show you. I just learned something. I got to call someone up as soon as I get off this call. I met this phenomenal woman that needs to be on this show. She's a black farmer, a writer, a costume designer, all of that. She's a Renaissance sister named Dr. Dawson, phenomenally. And she's into genealogy, and she made a comment telling me that she had a commercial farm in Tifton, Georgia. I was like, in fact, where is it? I'm looking. I've got a book somewhere on my shelf for Tift County, Georgia, because I have family from Tift County. Here it is. Heritage of Tift County, Georgia, 1905-2003, Volume 1. I ran across this the other day as I'm organizing family library. But when she said she had a farm in Tifton, I said, in Tift County. The minute I said that, she said, okay, this Negro, you from down there, because nobody knows who these places are unless you've got people there. And we began to drop names. I dropped one name, and she was texting to another woman. The lady went crazy. Now, I don't know how this is, but there's a strong possibility that there's a gentleman in my family who's one of the best farmers in Southwest Georgia by the name of, last name, Battle, Battle. And this dude was the first black person to have a car in a significant part of Southwest Georgia, which the white folks were jealous. They were so jealous of his achievement because he had like maybe 2,000 acres of land. Astounding, right?
Right.
Well, what they did was they decided to fine him $1,500 over some bogus stuff. He refused to pay. They came for him, didn't find him. They assassinated his son.
Oh, man.
Well, that's not how the story ends. The story ends with him getting his car and shooting up and killing up to 12 white men and then disappearing into blazes. He went Django. I'm sorry about land loss, but everyone knows about this story down there, that this guy flipped off on them. And in as much as I have a family full of people with the last name Battle, highly likely this is one of mine, right? How we all connect, I'm not clear, but there's a strong possibility. Imagine that somebody almost 100 years ago had the first car in Southwest Georgia, and they're owning all this land and hiring people and not taking no mess and having a house full of guns. Do you realize they got something to aspire to? The same way I was sharing with someone, I ran across some papers, and my great-great-great-great-grandfather owned a bunch of land outside of D.C. I'm talking about like 1790, when Washington was still alive. And you get where I'm coming from. Then you have to aspire. Man, my ancestors back in chattel slavery had property, and I'm a renter. Whew, right?
Right. See,
and
the
so,
history people don't get. They don't see this history.
Well, the point is when we start talking about what we need to talk about, a lot of black folks need to learn who they are, and I'm talking about they need to do the ADOS history. I'm so tired of Negroes talking about slavery, and yet they don't know their great-great-grandparents' names, never bothered to try. Well, I want to know about them. Hell, you want the check for slavery, but don't want to know who the slaves are.
Right.
Fake ass niggas. No, you should know. Those are the people. That's why you get the damn check, because they existed and they went through all that. People need to know. In fact, a lot of times they're going to be surprised at how incredible their ancestors were, with everything at a peak of white supremacy everywhere. They're killing folks from Africa to Australia, and your folks achieved something when everything was jacked up.
Yes.
That's inspiring, but I'll give you one more. This is why I always encourage people, and you should give them my email. I do like genealogical research to the archives for people. I do charge them, but not a whole lot. But worth my time, yes. What I learned from this doctor, I had asked, in 1995, maybe 94. It's probably 94. I asked my cousin about Georgia, and the lady pulled a knife on me at Denny's. I never liked Denny's anyway, because they had my oldest cousin, more like a great aunt to me, pull a knife on me. It was just shocking. I haven't been to Denny's since. I already hated Denny's father too, but she pulled a knife on me for asking her about why did the family leave Georgia. Because she was older, and she picked up the knife, and she's looking at me and holding the knife. I'm thinking, this is because she's old. And I kept repeating it, and her face was just blowing up like a puffer fish. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. My cousin said, you've really pissed her off. You're about to get hurt. She told me very nice, in other words, she's about to really cut you right here at the table. And I'm not going to be able to stop her. And I said, no, what happened? And she said, it was time. If you ever ask me anything about George again, I'll never, ever speak to you. And she says it was time for change. That's your damn history lesson. And that's all I got from the living person that knew something about it. Like a threat, a death. But guess what? This lady I talked to, so I had to go down there one day. The lady, Dawson, introduced me to this lady down there that knew battle. And she says, oh, yes, I know that name too. And she says, your family, they're violent. And I says, excuse me. She says, well, there's some kind of story, but what I think happened with y'all is that y'all did a reverse Rosewood on the white people.
The reverse, huh?
Yeah, it means they burnt up and shot up the people and split. And I was shocked. I was completely shocked. And then all of a sudden I began to think about how angry my cousin, how she flipped on me. I've known her all my life, flipped on me over just asking one question, just one. Now, it makes sense why if you even said the word Georgia, you got punched in the face as a child on that branch month. When they left, they didn't want anyone to know where they were from, as to avoid the authorities. So no one was to know anything about life in the family prior to, say, 1924. So almost 100 years ago. No one can know anything. Anyone asks anything, you're going to get popped in the face. Brutally beaten.
Kept that for the younger family members to give them that sense of fire, that sense of, hey, I'm mad as hell, I'm not going to take it no more.
Yeah, but this is exactly why I'm bringing it up. The branch of my family that told you had all the druggies and all the pathological people,
Right.
That's their branch. They don't know who they are. And so the people, you've got to learn your genealogy. Anybody that wants to help black folks, help people find out who they are. And then when you go back and you find out that you did have a father, had a grandfather, whatever, it gives you a sense of continuity that you're not an accident. And then when you see what it's like not to have a father, people begin to say, I would never do that. See, it used to be if someone got someone pregnant, my child's not going to suffer. They're not going to get called bastards in school and made fun of. I'm going to be there for them to shield them from the rejection that they'll pay. Remember, 51 years ago, the song, you think that I don't need you, you think I don't want to please you. Right. In those eyes, I see the reflection of hurts going rejected. Love child, never meant to be. Love child, born in poverty. Started my life in a old, cold, rundown tenement slum. My mom never married. My father left. He never even married mama. I shared together. My mother knew, so afraid that others knew I had no name. Love child. 51 years ago, it was a topic broached in black popular music, whether people like Diana Ross and them or not. It's a hell of a song for the person saying, I'm not going to give you the skins because I don't want, it says, is a love worth contemplating? Isn't it worth the pain of waiting? What will only end up creating, what is it? A love we've been hating? Love child, right? And it's talking about not passing intergenerational bastardy. We'll only end up hating the child we may be creating.
Right.
That's the song. I said, this love we're contemplating is worth the pain of waiting. We'll only end up hating the child we may be creating. Love child. Interesting.
Well, we need to put the love not just to the child, but into the woman and into the family unit as a man.
And into the man. And if your sperm is so strong, then stay around to see what it becomes.
Yes. Not just for the child's sake, but for your sake too.
For
Children
his
does
sake.
something wonderful to you.
Yeah, children are they inheritance from God. I mean, I don't have children, but I want. That's gonna happen. I'm just gonna be one of those old Negroes, you know. I hope the sperm make it over, finish my cane to walk.
Well, you're talking to a guy who's going to be 64 when his baby goes across the graduation of high school. So my youngest, I'll be 64 when she graduates. So yeah.
Well, no, I'll probably be like Moses. So not Moses, like Abraham. Abraham. Can't you see the ram? But you know, Jesus could work it out if you let him. If Viagra let him, said Jesus. Okay. This sterility that I had just a king song. Gonna turn it on, Jesus. I start worrying about it. Okay, anyway, I'm getting silly here. We need to stop.
We're gonna wrap this thing down. We're going at 2 hours and 36 minutes, and you know how the young people, when they videos around the 3 hour mark, they won't even click on it. But I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart, Dr. Short, for coming on with Judge Joe, because you know you didn't have to, but I believe we truly made history tonight.
Yeah, and he's awesome. I mean, I like Joe Brown. We've spoken many times to Judge. And he's one of the few brothers that keeps it real. And by the way, I love sisters. And I have to say this before I go. Brothers, we got to do something. They're killing our women in the street. This thing has me upset. I can joke. I think about that man, even though, whatever, I'm seeing them kill black women having babies in jail with no... brothers, you know, they scream about how great, you know, if these Negroes could have a religion, you know, they sing the song, "Oh, How I Love Jesus," they just sing, "Oh, How I Love Pussy." If you really love them because they first love you, defend the people who have them.
Yes.
What have you done for a person who had a vagina lately that wasn't for yourself, selfish here? It's much to say, we need to protect some of these mothers. That's a grandmother. Remember the grandmother in Chicago? Her first name was Betty. The policeman shot in her door the day after Christmas, 2015. I mean, they grandmothers and mothers, they didn't hear about it. They gave the family $16 million. And it just, we've got to, no matter what, no matter how negative maybe a few sisters are, they're all we got. Black women are all black men have. And you're a fag if you disagree. Okay? Black women are the only. They're God's gift to us, and how they turn out has a lot to do with how we treat them, how we raise them, how we're hooking up with them. Stop hating the black woman. Stop hating your sisters. Stop hating your mother. Stop hating your sisters. Defend them. And sisters, love your brothers. The answer is we must love ourselves.
Right.
And if you can't do it for the trifling ones, the good ones, the worthy ones, because Sandra Bland was worthy, and it's been kind of tepid the way we responded when we found black women dead, cut up, burnt, disappeared, some 70,000. You know, there should be some bureau of us, even if it's voluntary, where we come together and we hold people accountable. You know, so please.
Love women. We also have to love ourselves, Doctor. Love begins first with self, and then we can expound on that to others.
And don't hate yourself for having, hate yourself for being male, and don't hate other males.
Right.
And loving your brother does not mean that you need to impale his rear end.
Right.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that. In fact, the way that folks spread disease and do stuff to one another, and I know enough gay folk, and I don't hate nobody, but they tell me the stuff that people do to one another. You know, I know gay folk that want straight friends. They like the sex, but they can't stand the culture, the stuff they're in. That's real talk. I'm not trying to hate nobody. I'm not trying to do anything bad to anyone. I'm just saying, come on, y'all. And I'll tell you something. When black men come together and a dignified walk with their head upright, there are a lot of people who are ashamed of being black men that are over into a lot of foolish stuff that would probably come in a different direction if they could see it. Let's bring that about. Let's bring that about. Bring that about.
We have to do this, actually.
We got yeah. So be a man, not a sperm dropper. And for you sisters, be a mother, be a woman, be a warrioress. In fact, be a goddess. Don't be a trick. Don't be a hoe. Don't be a bitch. And people say, how do you define bitch? Well, a bitch is an asshole with the pussy. That's what a bitch is. Okay. So some of y'all qualify. All right. All right. So let me let y'all go. All right.
All right.
God bless you. Yes, I cuss some. Yes, I do. But I genuinely love. I wish the people in these churches and other places would tell these people the truth. Stop collecting 10% and telling them BS. Even a fortune teller is better than some of these dudes. You don't have to sit as long either. So that was cold. That's not a good thing there. Let me let you go. God bless you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Oh, wow, yeah. Wow, what a show. What a show. This is our show, y'all. This is the People's Show. TPIM SR Live. It's for us, so that we can get the information that we need. I want to thank both my guests, Dr. Short, Judge Joe Brown. Today's date is May 15, 2019, the year of our Lord. I'm your host, True Power is Mine, and this has been TPIM SR Live. As always, live your life of integrity without hate, envy, or greed. And as always, brothers and sisters, let's be kinder to one another. Peace, and catch me tomorrow.